Hollywood started as a green industry. You think of it, when it first was conceived, it was the other side of the continent. There was no national highways. There was just a little bit of a railroad. You had to get things there by boat or train. And so they learned very early on to be very thrifty and to manage their resources really well. And in the case of the studios, they were all managed like businesses. So everything was reused. Everything possible they could was recycled, and even hammered out nails. And so the same thing was true with the larger physical assets, whether it was set pieces like doorways, windows, walls, staircases, or in the case of the scenic arts, they would paint these backdrops for films and then inventory them and put them in storage and catalog them, beautiful black and white stills they would shoot of them. And when another movie needed Rome in the background or a nice hallway or a ballroom, they would pull those out first and in the art department figure out whether it would work with the set they were laying out. And it wasn't until the decline of the studios, I always call the decline like the burning of Rome when Krikorian sold MGM and literally sold all the assets that they could. And what they didn't sell, they threw into the landfills of Los Angeles or the dumpsters. So we lost a great deal of legacy and heritage.
As an artist, seeing these cinematic backdrops for the first time was astounding. And it was jaw-dropping for me. Having been a scenic artist for 25 years and a practicing studio artist, I was astounded and marveled at the eye and training and ability of the painters who were executing these pieces, because I could tell that they were bringing knowledge of painting from direct observation and imbuing these backdrops with that naturalism, sense of color palette, sense of atmosphere and depth for film. And when you look at these paintings under a lens, they're astonishingly real. I'm going to air quote real, but astonishingly real feeling. These paintings were designed to be seen relatively closely, but be perceived as infinite, and it was magical.
The opportunity to bring together the art of the Hollywood backdrop was just too good to pass up. We were able to bring these backdrops to Boca Raton to have its premiere here in our city and at our museum. And of course, this Mount Rushmore from North by Northwest was just the climax of this film that lasted, 2 minutes? And yet Cary Grant and even Marie Saint climbing Mount Rushmore. Who knew? But it fools the eye. I think there'll be a whole generation that has never seen Sound of Music or Ben-Hur or North by Northwest, Singing in the Rain.
This one is really kind of the Whitman sampler of genres of scenic painting. And it was important that we got some signature painting titles as well, like Ben-Hur or Singing in the Rain or The Sound of Music or North by Northwest. And they all fit in the museum. Go figure that, including Mount Rushmore. You try to get a 90-foot painting into a conventional museum space. We had to fold it back a little bit, but we got the full height, and it's the first thing you see when you come into the museum is in the Grand Hall is, there are the guys.
These scenic artists had to be both technicians and fine artists. They had to release their ego to paint in collaboration with one another. And they had to have the courage to face up to a 100-foot wide piece of fabric, 30 feet tall, and begin, as one of the artists shared with me, begin waging battle. When you approach a canvas that large, you have to prepare yourself to engage, because that is not going down lightly. And to bend something that large to your will takes courage and also a deep knowledge of how to execute it from start to finish. And that was passed on generationally from one artist to the next, to the next, to the next. There was nowhere to really learn how to do any of this craft unless you were working in the industry.
The secret to scenic painting for the cinema, I mean, because you're painting for the camera lens, you're not painting for an audience, you're not painting for your eye. And truly a good backing is one you never notice in the films, which is why they never noticed what these guys did, because they were painting for the lens. The most important thing in cinematography is lighting. Anyone can expose film, but it's how it's exposed is important. And so to create an environment, and for the studios, they wanted to control everything.
So the only reason why these backdrops currently exist is because they were working assets. They were not saved because they were precious to history. Most of Hollywood's history in terms of backdrop painting is gone. It was very ephemeral, destroyed almost as quickly as it was made, unless the studio had the forethought and the ability to manage a collection. Fortunately, J.C. Backings Corporation, who had a lineage and a connection to J.C. Backings and then 20th Century Fox, understood the value of these paintings as rental assets and made a business out of it. And that's why these paintings exist still.
It was a whole science, and these weren't scientists, these were intuitive artists for the most part, that brought their techniques. A lot of them studied plein air painting, which is where they would go out, obviously, in the field and study light at different times of day and its reflection and reaction to surfaces.
Mike Dennering, a wonderful scenic artist who had worked at Warner Brothers for 30 years and was incredibly helpful throughout all of this research. He said, Karen, everything you need to know about painting is in these paintings. Everything you need to know about mastering scenic artistry is here.